friends. Welcome to episode 245 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I'm Sarah.
I'm Rob.
How we doing, Rob?
Hey, fair to mid.
Yeah, you've been having a rough day today, man.
It's been a rough couple of days, but between weather and just general body feelings and emotions and work and everything else, I'm fair to mid. I'm surviving.
Good news though, it's Wednesday. It's therapy night.
It is. So funny enough, and I'll say this: I had my actual therapy yesterday.
Yeah.
Which was the first time we got to meet since November because my therapist had a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So congratulations to her.
That would do it.
But, when you do those gaps, there's filler that you have to catch up on. So be expected that return is hey, let's look at all these wounds.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that those are things that happen. So I will say the same thing happens in role-playing, where, if it's been too long since you've played your character and you come back, you're like, oh, yeah, that did happen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So there's a certain sense of that, I think, that follows under role-playing as well, so, under the guise of therapy. Mm-hmm. But, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Had the first chill day I've had off of work not off of work, but at work for months.
Light work for you.
Yeah, so it was okay. It was a pretty relaxing day.
Good.
And we got to play Sean's Nova Praxis game.
We did
last weekend. I think
that
went pretty well actually. It was kind of a heist, which was kind of neat.
I think because we made it one.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think it was always intended to be a heist, but I really liked kind of the way we went about it. He also used a system that he had dug up for that was, I guess, popular in Savage Worlds Explorer Edition, which is the last version of Savage Worlds, called Frameworks, and he's been really excited to use it. And it was a little bumpy because it was the first time employing a rule set, and that's always bumpy. But honestly, I really liked overall how it kind of came together, and I liked how it was structured.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, and ultimately we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I mean, the key to any of those things is okay, try it. See if everybody can roll with it. What didn't I know as a storyteller that I need to know for these things?
Yeah,
because you it's hard without practice to know what you're missing chunk wise.
Yeah.
So,
and that's always the problem with storytelling, just kind of in general, is you're in your own head, so you know what's going on, but then you have to convey that to 4 to 6 other people at your table. You know. And that can sometimes be the trick. I know some of my plot points have fallen flat because I'm like, there it is, and you're like, there what is, and I'm like,
the thing.
Oh, the thing. Oh, did I not describe that? Hold on, this is what happened. You're like, oh okay. Yeah, now I understand why that's a thing. Okay,
that makes a lot more sense now. Yeah.
I was really excited. I was really excited about that one.
Yeah. Painting obvious pictures is hard when it's always in your head first.
Yeah.
But that being said,
speaking of having a cozy day.
Oh, my lord, I swear. I'm glad we're having tea.
Yeah.
Because it fits this so well.
So tonight, second Wednesday of the month, we always do System Spotlights. Tonight we are talking about Wanderhome, written by Jay Dragon and published by Possum Creek Games. I think this game, and I said this to you at dinner, this is the game that I thought Root was going to be.
Yeah. I feel like we stepped into Root with not enough information.
Yeah.
That was our thing, because way too many people were like, how did you not know that that's what Root was? Like we were going to do the Dune RPG, and we thought it would just be an exploring the desert RPG.
Right, Dune, that sounds cheerful. There's dunes on the beach. Is it like a beach day?
No, it is definitely not a beach day, and Root was definitely not a cozy, wandery game. But this is, without a doubt, the coziest game. The softest of the softs.
Just 10-ply.
Yeah, 100%. It is narrative heavy handed. Yeah. It's hard not to just look at this and go, oh.
You almost it's probably the purest form of RPG that there is. It is because it is only role playing.
Yeah.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics are... I mean, this is the most watered-down mechanics I've ever seen. The most rules-light game that I've ever seen.
Well, okay. I will say this. You could have done this game in a single page. You could have. But you would have never reached the level of comfort.
Atmosphere.
And atmosphere that this game gives you.
Yeah.
It does everything to draw you in page by page to a world that you're creating by giving you, evoking feelings, giving you the theme, giving you everything else to be carte blanche. And I love that. Like, there's very little about the lore of this world. It's everything on all the framework is there.
Yeah.
Without giving you any specifics.
So let's talk a little bit about what they do give you here.
Okay.
I don't want to talk around it and then never get to it.
Be like them? Yeah.
So all right. So what is the setting and feel that they do give you for Wanderhome here? So it's the world is called Heath.
Mm-hmm.
And that's spelled with one of those cool little
AEs, yeah,
sort of things. And it's just kind of a world of wonder.
Yeah.
Populated by anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah. Magic is not as people know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know in D&D or your traditional sense. It is the energies of bonding and that of nature and God and small gods.
Small and forgotten gods, yeah.
I love that, yeah.
Since all the people are animals...
Yes.
All of what we would be animals are bugs.
Right.
So people herd flocks of bumblebees, and moths are used as carrier pigeons, and giant beetles are used as beasts of burden to pull carts.
Yeah, and the scale is adjustable.
Adjustable, yeah.
Like
we're not really
the
worried
idea
about it.
of a minute of a ram and a ferret having tea is 100% acceptable. They're similar size and such. So there is no weirdness in that. It is Mr. Toad-esque in that sense.
Yeah.
So
it'll very, very, very. We're focused a lot more on the wonder of it than we are of the verisimilitude, the realism of it.
Yeah, a lot of people would peg the anthropomorphics closer to Redwall in that sense.
I'm not familiar enough with Redwall to...
Yeah, for those in the know of Redwall, it definitely sits kind of in that framework, definitely not in the theme, but in that design of it. So, right. But then the grand difference in that sense is that it isn't a world of war. In fact, it is a world post-war where there is no fighting.
Yeah, it says the fighting is over now.
Yeah.
Along with that, there's basically no violence in the game. At least not in the sense that you know it from, you coming at it from like a Dungeons and Dragons player. You know, this isn't a realm where you're going to be defeating monsters and stuff like that.
No.
Whatnot. They don't really tell you much about the war either.
No.
It's just that it has been fought and it is done now.
Yep.
And some of the scars remain to be healed, but they're in that time of healing. The only real hint that they give you is that there's explicit reference to a group called the Rebels. But again, they don't tell you who they were rebelling against. I guess their symbol was the orchid. But that is as much detail as you get.
Yeah. It's a reference point. That is all. It is up for you and your group to decide.
To kind of tell that story. And then it also goes out of its way to explicitly explain that everyone is basically good and welcoming in this world. This isn't a cutthroat world filled with wounded people who are going to be you need to be suspicious of. And, if you spend the night in their, sleeping in their barn, you're going to wake up without your purses the next morning.
No.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Basically, everyone is good. I said you may occasionally find some people who are cruel, but those are usually solitary people who are in power that the power has corrupted and gotten to them.
Right. Or hurt people who don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
And often are there in need of help more than anything else. So it's a story of not just that, but also the journey of you're always moving. This game is one of the parts of this game is that that sits very tight to it is this concept of travel.
Yeah.
Even from page 1, you get the sense that the author traveled a lot and met a lot of people and is a wanderer of sorts, but never lost sight of home. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. It pours into every page of what Wanderhome and the setting is.
And in fact, that's one of the prompts they kind of give you at the end of character creation before you start the game is think to yourself where or what is home.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah.
And, maybe that definition changes along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, though, like the game is incredibly cozy, and to me, really paints a picture of a sense of childlike wonder in all things. Mm-hmm. And it even cites as a major inspiration in the credits at the back of the book the films of Hayao Miyazaki. Mm-hmm. And it was easy to, like, the moment I saw that, I was like, hold on a second. And I had to just recontextualize some of the things that I'd read about in the book previously as things that were literally in Spirited Away.
Yeah, the small gods. A river god.
Yeah.
Or a radish god.
Yeah, the small and forgotten gods. This is just their bathhouse, but they're the small and forgotten gods.
They can still be cared for.
Even the soot sprites.
Yeah.
Yeah. The small and forgotten gods of the hearth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's those types of things that they reference and remind you that are there. Mm-hmm. It's the little things. It talks about how that even though you do have insects that are being used as creatures of chore and of resource, they're still respected.
Yeah.
They're friendly. They're companions who are there to help you as much as they can, and you to them.
Yeah. And the other cool thing about this is that there really is kind of 3 settings in one here. Mm-hmm. So along the way, a lot of things are described by traits that are basically one-word descriptors of how they act, what their major disposition is. Mm-hmm. And some of those traits are marked with a special symbol that marks them as magical, meaning that trait is supernatural in nature.
Right.
There's another symbol on there, though, that denotes some of these traits as traumatized traits. And these are kind of darker. They come from more of a source of pain and things like that.
Yep.
And at the beginning of your journey, you want to discuss with the other players at the table whether or not they want those magical and or traumatized traits to be part of the story.
Yeah.
If you include the magical ones, you're going to be telling a story with some magic and mysticism to it. But if you leave them out, you can make that story a lot more grounded. A lot more, I suppose, realistic. It is realistic as a talking bunny riding a giant caterpillar can be.
Right.
But more grounded in that sort of agrarian nature rather than, the small and forgotten gods doing things.
Right.
And then the traumatized traits, again, if you want to explore some of those darker aspects, if you want to have sorrow and pain and the healing thereof, obviously, the overcoming of these things as part of your story, or if you just want to tell a nice lighthearted tale, you can easily leave all those traumatized traits out and just ignore them.
Yeah. So, well, let's at least grace the mechanics, because that's all you can do.
All right, so dice mechanics.
There are none.
What dice?
There are no
it's
dice.
Diceless. This is the first diceless game we've reviewed.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Even Lasers and Feelings had a D6.
It did.
Yep.
But this has a simple resolution system. It's mostly just talk about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
We agree that this is what happens. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah. Okay. That works.
It's that style of game.
But there are tokens in this game. that kind of give it a little bit of weight.
Yeah, tokens are about the only effective, like, actual mechanic the game has.
Mm-hmm. And that is to allow a kind of give and take into the narrative and from the narrative. And that is that generally to gain a token, you have to give something of yourself, whether it's in being inconvenienced or beholden or just giving of yourself to the world by taking time with it in some way, be it identifying the beauty, attaching to, or praying to a god, a forgotten god asking for assistance. But basically being a catalyst for a specific moment that can occur. And for that, you gain a token which can then be used to resolve conflicts or trouble, ease pain even temporarily, keep someone safe, find a thing that you need or a piece of, like, a resource, reveal some truth, aka adding to the narrative in that sense, or consulting a god for guidance, which might be able to help you through a situation. So you can see how even though it's narrative, there's still, like, encouragement by the tokens.
Yeah.
So,
if you want to get something out of, or overcome a major hurdle, you need to spend a token. If you want to get a token, you need to give something or contribute something to the story. It's nice. It's a very good push and pull,
Yeah, I liked one of the examples that they gave because it wasn't directly a character thing that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody had the area card in front of them. They were kind of in control of that area, which happened to be the swamp card.
Yeah.
Now they were using that as a descriptor of where they were, not being a physical swamp, but being something that would bog you down, a place that would keep you.
Yeah.
And so when one of the characters did a moment where they were like, I'm looking off in the distance and I see a ship. And I'm going to say that ship is my father's.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to leave.
I don't want to see my father.
I don't want to see my father.
Yeah.
And kind of exposing that part of themselves. The other player said, well, I'm going to bog you down.
Yep.
You can't leave because it's tradition here that no one leaves until daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Ships don't sail until daylight.
Until dawn. Yep.
So you're stuck here till tomorrow morning. And it's like, oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
So you can see how it that player gave into the narrative a conflict of some kind. One character was exposing something so they could get their token, and then the other one was like, "Aha! Well, guess what?
Yeah,
I'm going to do the same thing here and handle the situation a little differently."
And I think what I love about that too is because because of the style of game this is, because it is extremely cozy. Like, death is not going to be on the line,
No.
It's not even really that serious, ultimately.
No.
You don't worry about... This is kind of something we learned from, like, Mouse Guard, when the stakes are low enough, you don't mind throwing complications at your fellow player because it makes the story more interesting.
Exactly.
I think a lot of us come from that, like, sweaty D&D, you have to play absolutely optimally, because the DM is gonna get you if you don't.
Or the dice will just screw you in the end.
Right. We all fear that dreaded TPK, so we don't want to ever throw a monkey wrench in one of our players' things. Why would you ever do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I love games like Mouse Guard and Wanderhome that allow us the opportunity to be like, no, you know what? This would be more interesting if a difficult thing happened for us. It would give us a thing that we need to overcome. It makes an interesting vicissitude in the story.
Yes.
So character creation is, I think, very much like Powered by the Apocalypse in a lot of ways.
It is. I mean, in its framework, it is effectively the same thing. It's answering questions on a card.
And they're even called playbooks.
Yeah, it uses all the framework for Powered by the Apocalypse.
Just a bunch of choosing stuff off the list. There's no real moves per se in this system. But there's always a list of ways that your character can interact directly with the story by asserting certain phrases.
Yes.
Things like, would you like to come with me? is not just a line of dialogue, but it's an invitation for a new party member to join that will alter the story moving forward, you know? So your character's quote-unquote ability is to say, would you like to come with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a power,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Or, you know, a lot of other different examples of that. And sometimes, you know, sometimes those things that your character can do is fidget.
Yeah.
But those are on the list, and they're great. They're little bits of flavor. And a lot of these lists are like, choose 2 that apply to you, and choose 1 that you avoid and or no longer applies.
Right.
You know, choose one of these things that you take pride in, and choose 1 that you resent.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is really great because those lists then kind of do double duty.
Mm-hmm.
I would say each playbook really feels unique in the aspects of this wonderful world as well. Some of them bring a sense of wonder to the table, like the shepherd with their little flock of bumblebees. I think that's absolutely adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them bring like the sort of mystical aspects in that we talked about, with like the magical things. Like the caretaker, who has a collection of shrines to small and forgotten gods in their care, and their whole job as a caretaker is to shepherd these small and forgotten gods to where they need to be, where they're most comfortable. And if they find a small and forgotten god that is not, you know, in a good place, to take it into their care and then find someplace where it can be safe and revered.
Yeah.
And then some of them also play off of the darker aspects of the world, like we talked about with the traumatized traits and such. Some of the playbooks are things like the veteran, who must never unsheathe their blade.
Yeah. And if they do, that's it.
That one got dark real quick.
Yeah.
They're like a relic of the old war, and it talks about how you have a blade. You can unsheathe this blade anytime you want. You must never unsheathe your blade.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the moves your character can do, moves, actions, whatever, unsheathe your blade and kill the person in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you immediately retire your character.
Yep, that's it.
Because you have crossed a line. You have failed.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think, the only way to really enact any sort of true violence in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is grim, and it entirely destroys your character the moment that it happens.
Yeah. Death is not something that is welcomed in this world at all.
It is held with the seriousness with which it should be, I think.
Yes.
And man, yeah, reading over that veteran was very sobering in this setting. And then, you know, just like a lot of other Powered by the Apocalypse things, you've got your advancement chart as part of your playbook that says basically whenever you advance, you can choose one thing off of this list. It's a very light, open list of things, including picking stuff from other playbooks, or, you know, what the very last thing is, retire your character.
Yeah, because it's something that can happen.
So you've found a home, you found an end to your journey somewhere, whatever. Retire the character, pick a new one.
Yeah. Yep.
How advancement is done, though, is very, very cool to me. Okay. So, part of the setting is that there are 5 seasons, each 2 months long.
Yes.
And they all have their own cool names. And so it's month, end of the season, you have a festival.
Yes.
To celebrate the end of that season and the ushering in of the next one.
Yep.
And it's at these festivals at the end of a season that your character advances. So the 5 seasons are Leap, Bright, Breathe, Silt, and Chill.
All super cozy.
Super cozy. Very agrarian.
Yes.
Very centered around like the harvest cycle. If you're a Stardew Valley player, you will be intimately aware of
each one of these.
Each one of these phases. And what I love about this is that not only do the characters have playbooks and locations have playbooks, as we'll get into in a little bit here, but the seasons and months have playbooks,
and the events the seasonal events,
and
especially.
Yeah, the festivals
And
have playbooks.
When we talk about the playbooks of these, we're not saying that it's, that anything different than the characters. It's literally a book that lets you make selections, so that no matter where you are, it's going to be a little different. And it's kind of a beautiful thing that, like, when you go to some other city, like, even today, like, if we went to Germany for Christmas, it's different than it is in New York City.
Yeah.
Or than it is in, Washington, D.C., or rural Texas. All of that's going to be different because it's the same seasonal event that's occurring, but everybody has their own customs and traditions. And for that, you make selections from a list to help you kind of just encourage the world to be a little different.
Right. Here's a vague description of what this holiday is. Pick 2 off of this list of 10 that are traditions in the place you're currently at.
Yep.
Pick 1 is a food that is being served everywhere, all around you as a traditional feast. Things like that. Pick what sort of games and celebrations are happening here. Is there dancing? Is there banners or maypoles or something like that?
Well, even like one of the seasons was which one of these things didn't happen this year?
Yeah.
Which one of these 5 isn't happening? Is there no wind? No wind across the fields. But there's still light rain and all the other pieces. But it again gives texture and difference to what's going on, in a way that I've never seen anyone else really do it. I feel that it's that right there, by giving the game the playbook, not just the PCs, you're empowering everyone to make selections in the sense of without the dilemma of too many ketchups or too many jellies.
Yeah.
You've got a list to choose from, and I'll get to it later of how well this game basically helps people role play. So, but you were starting to get into the settings.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
But in that sense that not just the seasons, not just the months, not just the events that happen within those months, those festivals, but the setting itself has micro playbooks for everything. Whether you're in an area, which might be like a bog or a prairie or a small town or a garden or whatever, you may also have within that also have a specific trying to think of what they're like a trait that's going on there as well. So that maybe there's a castle, and again, it's a selection list to help you define it. Pick 2 of these, and it can always be described as this. By everyone. It's recognized. So in that, you're always being given these basic building blocks of the world that's around them that doesn't dissuade from any or pull away from anyone's idea of what the setting is. Because again, it's that overarching feel of the cozy existence. And this wandering that you're passing through. And a peaceful place. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have injuries and trauma.
Yeah. And again, like there definitely is like a lot of these darker themes and stuff that you'll stumble across some of those. Like if you pay attention to where the trauma tags are on certain attributes, there's some things in there that are like a trauma tagged hungry wanderer is lost in the cave with you.
Right.
Oh God, go and read the description for hungry. Like, because hungry in and of itself, like each one of those has a micro playbook to it.
Well, it's got like something it can do.
Two prompts, 2 ways that it can interact with the world.
Right.
Or that it is driven to do.
Yeah.
Because it has this attribute.
Yeah.
And like hungry doesn't just mean needs a cheeseburger. Hungry has a trauma tag on it for a reason. And
I would say almost, and you kind of made a point to this earlier, is that it almost feels like a choose-your-own-adventure in the way that you're making selections, and it changes each time you drift through them.
Yeah, and I really like that because it's a heavily collaborative system, and you end up with and I've experienced this a little bit at my own table where I have tried to do like open sort of free role play, so where it's like, here, Rob, I'll give you a prompt. You tell me something that's interesting here. Tell me what complication happened on the journey.
Yeah.
Tell me how this monster responds to you encroaching on its territory, sort of things like that. And the problem is that not everybody is ready to just drop improv.
Right.
There are, people who are more socially anxious, or just people who don't think on their feet terribly well like that,
Or getting put on the spot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be an uncomfortable experience when you're, when those things come into play. But I think Wanderhome takes a lot of the spice out of that.
Yes.
Because you're given a very succinct list of things, a very complete list, and all of them fit the setting in some way.
Yeah.
So you're never like, oh, is this out of scope? Am I doing it wrong?
Yeah, it's like, for those of you who remember Mad Libs, right? Instead of just coming up with a list of random adjectives, adverbs, nouns, and things like that, and then plugging them into whatever story, it's giving you the blank spots to fill in, and then giving you a little space to write something more.
Right.
To get your whistle just a little wet, tell you what the tune is, and then kind of let you jazz improv anything else you want to do.
Yeah.
And I like that it's giving you a leg up at every step, but not so much as to make it heavy-handed. To say this is what you must do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But the theme is explicit. There's no question of what this game is.
Yep. It describes that it is a place full of anthropomorphic animals with insects, and that the violence is over.
Yep.
And there are small and forgotten gods and little bits of wonders.
Yeah, and that you are traveling as a group for whatever reason. From place to place, from meeting to meeting, however. And it's not a matter of that you're a troop or a tribe or anything like that. You just may all be going the same direction on the same cart.
Sure.
That's up to you, but you are on your way or arriving somewhere.
You all have your own reasons and your own destinations, really.
Yeah.
But for right now, your companions on the trail.
So, let's give a small example, because I think it helps.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, one example that we pulled here is like as a location. Okay, so this is the port. So you show up in port. It says, the port is a gateway through which the whole world opens up to you.
Awesome.
That is the description.
It doesn't mean it's water. It could be just as easily a land port of roads.
It says, this place can always, so all of these things are possible. This place can always describe the ships and where they go. Show the dangers of a fragile lifestyle, and ask, can I take you somewhere you've never been before? Give them a token if they accept.
There you go.
So it acts kind of as there's that prompt. The place can ask, can I take you somewhere you've never been before? No, obviously this is going to be probably an NPC. Some other one of the kith or kin, as they call them.
Yep.
In this location, a ship captain, a balloon captain of some sort, whatever. Someone who has the power to take the group.
Yes.
May offer to take them someplace, and if they do, you're rewarding them with a token for taking a chance. They've never been to this place before.
Getting uncomfortable,
going outside their comfort zone. So, bam. All right, and then it says, choose 2 aesthetic elements from chunky barges.
I love that.
Hot air balloons, hence I mentioned the balloons. Jetties and docks. Fidgeting hoppers. I'm not really sure what that means.
I don't think it has to mean anything.
Sure. Nervous frogs, fidgeting hoppers. Smug captains, of course. An adventurous, and that's a tag, an adventurous buddy you once wandered the world with. You run into an old friend at a port.
Sure.
Of course you would. Or something else of your own invention. Most of these lists offer you, as like a last or second to last choice, to come up with something else you think fits that isn't on the list.
Yeah.
And then choose one folklore about this place. The headless spirit of the dockyard. The boat that would not sink. The eastern mists and the trouble it brings. Or something else of your own invention.
Yeah. When I first read this, this is a prompt, the first thing that came to my mind is this happy-go-lucky literal head that's on the dock. That's like the greeter as people come in. And it's just this joyous little spirited head. Like that just hangs out, you know? Because it reminds me of a Ghibli thing.
Yeah.
You know, where it's a little spooky at first, but then you're like, oh, it's just a joyous little thing.
The small god of gregarious hospitality.
Yeah, something like that, you know? And it doesn't talk about how these gods became. It doesn't talk about what, you know, if they will fade.
They just are.
That's for you.
Yeah.
That's for your world to decide. So I think this leads us into one of the more, I would say, poignant points of this is, where does the storyteller fit into this? Now, they refer to it as a guide. And throughout this entire book, it's never referenced that a guide is necessary. Until
in fact, I think it explicitly says that one technically isn't.
Correct. And in fact, they kind of state early on, they're like, in some games, I've had a guide. In other games, the guide rotated. In other games, there was no guide. And yet others, someone was very careful and laid out an entire story and did all the voices and everything and was a true DM of sorts as a guide. And all of them were wonderful. All those stories were different. And it's with no uncertain terms saying that all of that is acceptable. But what I love about this section is it actually paints a really good picture of why storytellers are good and how they help in this world, but I think how they help in any, and what a non-storyteller game looks like and why it's good. And I think its breakdown is beautiful. And I think it's because as storytellers, we're there to help facilitate and encourage, especially people who've never done it before.
Right.
You know, we are a guide to them. We don't master anything here, right? Because the story is still collaborative, regardless of how it's looked. Whereas when you step away from having a guide, a storyteller, you open up that expression of everyone, that they can now basically just kind of go whole hog. So it's not uncommon to start with a storyteller and then perhaps just let the story go where it goes. And let it roll.
I can see that. And also, I really like the idea of like a rotating guide of just, you know, okay, I got us started on the road, and then like next week, you know, hey guys, do you mind if I'm guide next time? I've got a little, something happened last session, and I've got an idea that I want to expound upon. Like, yeah, sure, take us on a journey.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem with that. Like, I don't see how that's an issue, and there's almost a sense of like a break somewhere in the softness of breaking between, like, and I'm going to say it, like OSR and narrative storytelling, in the sense that like you're not in control as that guide either. It's still collaborative. It's still everyone else that's going on. You're still moving into the next thing, and then something's happening.
Right.
So there's still that sense of excitement that you don't know what the rest of those people at the table are going to bring, or how it's going to shape, or what traits and selections are going to be made. Like, it's still very open.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a beauty to that. There's a wonder to that. But they make it very easy. They actually give you a single-page quick start, which I think is wonderful. I mean, it goes as simple as make sure you have all your supplies and snacks.
Yep.
Snacks seem to come up in this a lot.
Where are the Cheetos?
Exactly. You know, read the opening paragraphs, cover the tools, right? Be safe with each other. Be kind with each other. Start chatting about the journey questions, introduce everyone to the playbooks and go over how the tokens work, pick out your playbooks and make choices of your characters, create your first place, choose 3 natures for it.
Mm-hmm.
Decide what month you'd like to play in, although you don't have to. Describe a couple of kith who inhabit this place or who are traveling with you.
Mm-hmm.
Answer 4 final questions. What sort of place did we just travel from? Do we feel our journey has been going on too long? Is there somewhere we hope to go? And silently, but still most importantly within your head, where is my home?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
And that's such a poignant question too. And
Mm-hmm.
that, I think that's one of those things that this game does very well. Is it asks some big philosophical, deep questions. Where is my home?
Mm-hmm.
You, or in our earlier discussion, brought up that home can be a person.
Yeah.
Home isn't always a place. Home can sometimes be a person.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I'm like, yeah, Sean's home to me.
Yeah.
Our house is home, obviously.
Yeah.
It's very cozy there. But, like, when do I feel most safe? And that's just when I'm with him.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where we are.
And they kind of reference that home can change.
Mm-hmm.
And it often does. But one of the last paragraphs in the whole book, and it's short, I'm going to read it, really, I think, paints that in a beautiful way. The road is a river that carries me home. I hold tight to it as it sings within me, louder than any storm, yet calmer than a lullaby. Press your hand against mine, and you can feel this. My home, heavy in my heart and soft against my lips. Sometimes when I feel the harsh gales pushing against me, I can stare out at the thin and tangled road ahead and forget what waits beyond. But I trust the road. I trust the song. I trust that someday I'll cuddle up in my bedding beneath a canopy of trees deep in the forest where the small and forgotten gods dance, and know that above all else, we are alive. Our care has warmth all of its own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't know what this game is by that paragraph, you're missing. You've missed it. You've missed it all.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like, this type of poetry pours out of every image and page in this book. And it's a wonder to behold.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, but at the same time, it's always reminding you of the feeling at every step.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, that's it. That's what we had.
Closing thoughts.
Sure.
All right. So, what does Wanderhome do well?
It's the coziest ever.
It is absolutely the most cozy 10-ply game on the market. If you really want to get that same sort of feeling as, like, Spirited Away from your tabletop RPG, where okay, some chaotic and some weird sort of magical things happen, but at the end of the day, everyone's all right, and the problem was solved by hugging the bad guy.
Maybe. But at the same time, no one's dying of a sword thrust to the chest by a random die roll.
Right.
Right. You're not getting that single frame of Link being stabbed by a skeleton saying, "Welcome to Dark Souls." That's not happening. That's not happening in this game. But yeah, like I said, every single page drips with beauty and wonder and feeling of this world without explicitly telling you all of the details and lore. There is no timeline, no history, no massive pages full of maps and art. The most detailed piece of lore is the chart of the seasons.
Yeah. And that's just literally, hey, look, there's 10 months broken into 5 seasons.
What the holidays are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Even the sad and traumatic things in this game feel very authentic in a way that you can easily empathize and identify with.
This is by far the easiest, cleanest entry point that I've ever seen for roleplay.
Mm-hmm.
For getting someone who's never truly roleplayed narratively.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like the tabletop aspects of role play. That's not role play. That's tabletop gaming.
Yeah.
No, that's BattleTech. That's miniature gaming.
You can always tack a board game onto whatever you're doing. That's fine.
But to get someone to talk about their character and their character's feelings about something, to talk about aspects of the world that they are imagining within themselves, this does a great job of giving you all of the fill in the blanks and tell me the parts I don't know. That make it wonderful.
And I think a large part of that is because the stakes are ultimately so low. There's never that wonder of like, if I don't do this right, is my character going to die? If I don't do this right, is Rob's character going to die?
Yeah.
And am I going to be responsible for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, nobody's dying.
No.
Nobody's dying.
No,
it's fine.
I mean, maybe if that's a theme you guys want to explore.
Sure. But that's a buy-in. That's
it's 100% a choice.
Consequence of the game.
It also is a constant reminder that you need to check in with each other on a regular basis to see where everybody's at, because maybe the last journey was ending in a way that no one was comfortable with, and y'all just moved on.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
And I think the open nature of the game suggests that you can easily share the storyteller the guide duties.
Yes.
Like we were just explaining here. I think it's nice that you have a game where the storyteller isn't so pressured to have so much control. Coming from like Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like every game session took so much prep because I was trying to work numbers and come up with good encounters and make sure that the monsters were balanced to the group and see what abilities you guys had and what I could put out there that you wouldn't just nuke off the table, et cetera, et cetera. No, none of that. Where are we going today, folks? And what does it look like when we get there?
Yeah.
Cool. Who's there? What are interesting features that are here? Okay, great. Let's all tell that story. And maybe if it's not me this week, maybe you want to do it next week.
Yeah, and I will say to a balance point is that with the token system, you are limited to how far you can go into the limelight. And how that light moves around the table.
Yeah.
I think it gives a little more understanding of what that means and how that feels. And I dare say it paints a really good picture for storytellers in other systems how to grant tokens. Because in most systems, it's like there's a line of good role-playing, give a token. What does that mean? What is good? Did everybody laugh? Oh, I'll give a token for that. No, that's not necessarily great. Being their character, exposing something of themselves, giving something up. Like, these are good traits to put in any system.
Yeah.
As a reason of why you should be giving out role-playing tokens, a weight currency within the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Knox says in the live chat here, you both sound like you absolutely love this game.
No.
We do. Favorite thing about it? So favorite thing, if I had to boil it down to one thing, it is the way that the descriptions are written for things that absolutely ooze with flavor. Specifically, the thing that shook me to my core was reading the description of the Veteran playbook. We described how, the war is over, the time for violence is gone, and you have this veteran who carries a sword with him. And it explicitly says in the description, you must never draw your sword. And if you do, that's the end of your character. Each of the playbooks goes through and asks you to describe certain aspects that are specific to your playbook. Okay, so the caretaker who carries around these small and forgotten gods, it asks you to describe 5 of them that you have these shrines to, that you have in your possession, and what aspects they have, and it kind of, by asking for those descriptions, it's asking you to build upon what your caretaker's relationship is with these small gods, and thereby building up the essence of your character, because that's what you do. That's why you chose caretaker. The veteran asks you essentially a bunch of questions about your sword.
Mm-hmm.
What is your... You must never draw your sword.
Mm-mm.
But what does it look like? What is it? Is it blessed by a god? Is it, is stolen from or granted to you by someone, a legendary warrior? Is it stolen from a treasure hoard somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then the next thing is tell you something that, how do they phrase it? Something you know about your sword,
Mm-hmm.
or that you learned about warfare or something like that from someone else. And it's things like, the greatest sensation for a warrior is feeling your sword cut skin. And that is why you must never draw your sword.
Yeah.
You were told by a noble that violence is just a tool to maintain power. And that is why you must never draw your sword.
Mm-hmm.
And they all end in those words.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look, you read through all these things, and it continuously says you must never draw your sword, never draw your sword. And then you look at the things you can do. And it's, a number of small actions. And then the very last one on the list is draw your sword.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the kill the person in front of you. Immediately retire your character.
Yeah.
You may not play this one anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever seen another game treat violence in the same way. That it doesn't ask you not to use your sword.
Mm-hmm.
It says you must never draw your sword.
Yes.
Even the act of producing the blade is beyond a certain pale. That is unconscionable in this time, in this place. And it does such a good job of just making you feel the weight of that burden. It doesn't ask you if you want a sword. It says, here's your sword. And then proceeds for 2 pages to tell you why you should never draw it.
Mm-hmm.
And why that would be the end of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, that's my favorite thing about the game.
I mean, it explicitly reminds you the war is over for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone agrees that it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a certain sense of that I kind of get that reminds me of back in the day when we were talking about BattleTech, and like, we don't use nukes.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Ares conventions.
Where like even a millennia later, everybody's just like, nope, no, no,
Stop it, stop it.
We may all hate each other, and I may invade your territory tomorrow, but don't you freaking touch that button.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Everyone will eradicate you if you do that, even if they like you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a powerful statement. But it lends to the destruction and pain and suffering that caused.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone agreed it doesn't deserve to be around.
Knox asks the excellent follow-up question. Why even carry the sword if you never want to use it? Why keep the temptation hanging there?
That's a fine question.
That's a fine question, Knox.
You should play that character.
Yeah, exactly. You should find the answers for that along the way on your way home.
Yeah.
Because why keep it? Is it too dangerous to relinquish? Are you the best person to hang on to it because you know you have the willpower never to use it?
Did you set it down once and something happened?
Is it a reminder? Is it a memento mori for you that it's a memoir of a different time that you can't let go of? Is it the sword you can't let go of, or is it the past that it represents?
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of great questions there. You should probably play that character and find out.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of the key of this game.
Yeah.
Is to ask those questions.
It really is.
And dig at that little wound that's clearly there
and
just
that
in
is
this game.
Precisely what I love about this game, is that you ask those questions, and those are the most poignant questions you can ask about your character.
Yep. For me, it is the quintessential D&D or DM's how to run a game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just answer the questions with the group.
Yeah.
You don't need to do more. That's it. Here's your setting. Let them play in it.
Yeah.
Answer 2 questions. That's it.
With a short but flavorful, 1-sentence description of what the place is, or what this person's major attribute is. This person is gregarious. This person is adventurous.
Yeah.
This person is hurt.
Yeah. Every time I looked at this, I was just like, you could just take Wanderhome and slap it onto anything to help you.
You really could.
To 100% help you. Even if you didn't keep up the softness of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there to be a very functional, quick world building as a storyteller.
And the great thing is, because Wanderhome doesn't really have any mechanics to speak of,
nope.
Especially built into any of its playbooks, there's no mechanics you're going to be butting up against, to transplant it into literally any other system. It's just a storytelling thing.
Yep. It's a platform.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful in that sense.
It's like a cozy version of Worlds Without Number.
Yeah. It is not trying to be anything but what it is.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yep.
All right, so real quick, what does Wanderhome not do well? We've been sitting here singing its praises for a solid hour.
You made this point, and I tend to agree with you on it. I think there are ways around it, but that is that the book is a playbook. You need all of the pages to play it.
Yeah. Everything in here is a playbook, from the season to the attributes a person will have to the place that you're in,
your moves,
etc., etc. So I feel like you need at least one copy of the book open at all times, and you're going to be flipping through it to make sure that you're looking at the attributes that things have, and then taking some time probably to write those things down onto like cards, so that you can just have them in play and not have to go back and reference them.
Yep, agreed. I also think it's a lot of theaters of the mind's eye, like so much so that it's almost a challenge to remember all of the things because you're building the lore live, in that sense, and so it's a challenge to keep track of everything. So if you're not completing your story, your section of this journey before the next one, and you're carrying over session to session, there's no great lore to help you. Right? It's complex. It's people to people.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot less of you talking to a player and learning about their actions, their character, and more about talking to a brand new person you just met through the guise of a character that you are piloting.
Yeah.
And that can be very, very challenging to try and keep up with. So,
I also think that like diceless is a pretty bold move for some gamers.
yeah.
I think when I was describing it to Sean was balking at it a little bit because he was just like, "What do?" I'm like, well, you journey and you explore and you come across the trials and tribulations that the trail gives you, and you'll come across people that may need things solved, and you discover that stuff on the way, right? And he's like, right, but like how?
Right. He needs a mechanic.
Yeah, and there are some people who enjoy the game aspect of role playing game, and I absolutely respect that. That's totally valid.
Yeah.
I thinking about Wanderhome, I think it's a wonderful game system. I don't know that I would want to run it. I think I would very much like to play in it, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe do one of those ones where like we just kind of pass guide off every week. You know?
Yeah.
I could do an occasional guide.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'd want this to be my game.
Right. Yeah. I get all that. I don't think it would be as much of a struggle for me to get into this. I actually would really enjoy running this.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
either as a rotating storyteller or as a starting guide point and then just letting it roll. And this is one of those games where I could easily see the guide having a character.
Yeah.
Or even the choice of the guide just being the aspects of the world as character.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Easily. easily.
But it is very much everything on the fly. It is directionless in that sense and can definitely make people stumble about what do I do.
Right.
Because and we also come from storytelling of an aspect of I have to make my entire character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am a class, but everything else about me, I have to come up with my drive, my motivation, all that kind of stuff. This game doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your class isn't your class. It is who you are. It is your direction. And by answering those questions, you get closer and closer to every piece that makes you. So, although it is gaming by committee, it is storytelling by group, I still would tend to say that it is the hardest part of this is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of Wanderhome? D&D's purpose is to win, right? In many aspects of what it is. You are to conquer it.
Yeah.
You know, Mask's purpose is to be comfortable with your life. Mm-hmm. And I think this sits in that same place, is to answer the story of what is home to your character. And that right there is an esoteric nightmare for some people.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah. Yeah. So that's... I would say, what does it not do well? Put spotlights on yourself. That's what does not do well. I mean, it does it well. That is not always comfortable.
There.
Yeah. So,
all right, we've got a couple questions here from Nevim.
Yep.
Thank you very much for once again, Nevim. He asks, "Is the game perspective refreshing?" Oh, very much.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I've gotten to the point in my own gaming journey that I'm kind of done with like heavy combat games. Even just in video games too. Like, as much as I talk about Monster Hunter, you know, because and that's a very hot combat heavy game. But like, Starfield recently came out, and you can say whatever you want about Bethesda's game design and how Starfield was a failure and that and stuff like that. But like, the main reason I didn't get Starfield, even before the bad reviews started coming out, when people started realizing that like, if you've played 2 hours of the game, you've played the whole thing, was that it was that same formula of, okay, you're a vast space explorer, and there's all these wonders out there to behold in space, and exploration is a big thing that we want you to do. Like, okay, cool. How do we do that? Well, first, grab a gun.
Yeah.
And there's pirates to kill, and there's aliens to kill, and there's more pirates to kill, and there's enemy factions of settlers and stuff like that to kill. And I'm like, okay, but when do we get to, like, the exploration part, the part that's wondrous and draws me into the stars to see, to explore, to, you know, well, there's plenty of stuff out there to kill. You should go out there and explore. Find new things to kill. Mm-hmm. Okay, never mind.
So it's an FPS.
I don't need to give you my $70 then,
right,
you know.
Right.
I've killed things plenty in other games.
If we could find the Stardew Valley of open world RPGs,
yeah,
like that just was a game.
Exactly. Meet tons of interesting people and murder them. Exactly, Knox.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So the next question: does the game offer a lot of example scenario possibilities?
I'm going to say yes and no. I think that the storytelling that happens throughout the book in small paragraphs gives you a strong enough feeling of how the game is played, but it makes it very obvious what the scenarios are and what you can build. It doesn't need to offer examples because it's there. Like, it's very clean. It's not random charts and things. It's easy to read. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
In the way that it paints what you can do and how it all comes together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I will say it does and it doesn't in that sense, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah, there are definitely gameplay examples in there. They're I would say frequent but bite-sized. So there isn't like like we've seen in some other game systems where you've got like 2 pages of an example of play, you know, written in 10-point font.
Right.
This is more like 1 page, very tightly framed in that it sits in the middle third of the page, and the entire rest of it is framed by either a little bit of artwork or whatever. It's maybe a paragraph long.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an ongoing thing through the book.
Yeah.
They introduce a couple players at the beginning, and you kind of see their journey of like character creation, and then you see their journey as they're starting their journey, and then a scenario they come across through there. So, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. It gives you good flavor.
Yep. What elements would you take from the game into your own?
Absolutely, what Rob said earlier about how the locations, individual playbooks and stuff like that are great to just drop in if like you need to world build
on the fly.
On the fly, grab your copy of Wanderhome and crack it open to whatever terrain, whatever biome you're in currently, and just pick a couple things off the list, and bam, there you go.
Likewise, the NPC traits.
Yeah,
go grab some traits. Those traits have ways to use them. It's not just, us saying the person is sleepy. That's great. But if you're like, they're giddy.
Yeah.
Okay, giddy has 2 options, right?
It's usually like 3, pick 2.
Right.
Pick 1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. And it helps you get out of the lock of what do I do to make this NPC feel alive. Yeah. Steal it. 100%.
And it's easy to do this stuff. Like, I would say probably don't pull out your copy of Wanderhome in the middle of your D&D game and do this. It could be useful that way, because it is certainly quick enough. But it's great for, like, when you're doing your prep between games of, like, oh, God, what if they go to this forest? I don't know anything about this forest. I haven't written anything. Crack open your Wanderhome book. And pick 3 attributes off of that list, and bam, now you've got this forest.
Likewise, if you're in a situation where a player can spend some reputation to have a contact show up, and they're like, oh, my friend so-and-so is here. Flip, 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 flip. Okay, pick one of these traits that they have.
Yep.
This, or this. And then you just grab a few things off of it. Wonderful. And that very quickly allows you to create a NPC on the fly with your players. I think for me, one of the things I would pull from this, especially for games that have benefits like bennies or drama dice or something like that, is what I talked about earlier, where it is a good framework of what constitute a reason to give someone a benny.
A meta currency, meta token, yeah.
Yes. Whether it's inspiration, whether it's bennies, whether it's drama dice, whether it's tokens, whatever. Fate
points, yeah.
Look to this where it would normally say, good reward good role-playing. What does that mean? This game defines what good role-playing looks like and why it is, and what can be constituted as things a token should be able to do beyond mechanical. Because your players are going to come to the point of like, can I use my inspiration for something else? Sure. Could I edit the story? Yes. You could temporarily remove the harm from someone. You could, do any... And it gives a nice list of things that they can do. And that is beneficial as hell.
Yes.
That is beneficial as hell.
Agreed. All right. Put a wrap on Wanderhome?
I think so. I think we did a nice job on this, so... All right. Next week, we are doing another show.
Are we?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. We are doing the differences between fun and pulpy escapism and realism with consequences. Because we have this thing where we play in D&D to have this kind of like, hey, we're out killing goblins and no one seems to care. Or we go and do this big battle and at the end we're triumphant and the king's happy even though we just murdered like 30 guards.
Right.
Of this enemy guys who clearly all had families and homes and there are no consequences for these actions.
Yeah. And you see frequent discussions too online about my players murdered like 4 guards. What should be the consequences of that? My players picked a weird mushroom. What should be the consequences of that?
Yeah.
So where do you kind of draw the line between, and how do you reconcile the difference between things like your power fantasy, your escapism, and your actual honest to goodness verisimilitude and realism? So.
Yeah. So,
next, you can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave. And join us on our Discord. Shoot us some questions. Join the other great storytellers up there and discuss your campaigns. Throw some world-building ideas up there. You can find that link on our Twitter as well as our website, storytellerconclave.com.
we'd like to thank our Patreon members who support us every single month, especially our named members, Knox in the Box, Subjet, the Arcane Asylum Veteran, Hulavu, Sean, Sam, and Sparkle Motion. We appreciate all your support. Our pre-show music is by Arcane Anthems. You can find them on Instagram or on patreon.com as Arcane Anthems. Our intro music is Beyond the Warriors by Geefrog. You can find them at geefrog.bandcamp.com or on YouTube Music. And our outro music, which you're hearing right now, is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Midair Machine. You can find them at freemusicarchive.org.
And a big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us. All of our friends who sat at the center tables give you these great stories to share with you over the years. And you, every single one of our listeners, we love you guys so much.
Love you guys. Good night.
Good night.